Could you make sure you send me some of that information?
See, I'll probably need your email, but I
Ozzy,
could,
OZZY.
hold on,
Okay.
OZZY.
Walker, WALKER, at MSN.com. That's my
All right,
personal.
guys.
Any of y'all can email me. Any information you have be much appreciated.
Sent, Ralph.
At MSN.com.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, guys, we're getting started. We're live already, and we're waiting for Ralph to come back in with his computer. And Dr. Frank's going to have a seat. And we're going to get started. We're all pumped up. A lot of people have been excited about this opportunity. I know I have personally. So as soon as Ralph pops in, we'll get started. But Dr. Frank, you want to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Where are you flying from today?
San Jose.
Okay, so he left California and had to fly to Denver.
Yeah, and I got up super early so I could be here tonight.
Yeah.
But the plane got delayed that I was supposed to transfer to in Denver, so I sat in the airport for 5 hours. But it wasn't wasted time because I crunched Colorado data all day.
Oh, nice.
I got a bunch of new teams going in Colorado. I'm pretty excited about it.
Okay, good. So Colorado's going good. And
Alabama, Oregon, California. My California team's on fire. Got several of them.
Okay.
And I'm pretty excited about it.
So as soon as Ralph Cushings comes on, he is the election commissions in Hawaii. There's a big hearing going on next Wednesday. So let me tell everybody the dates here. So that's August 27th. Susie Hawaii may have some information related to the event next week. Go ahead, Susie.
I just wanted to let you know that Ralph was up on the panel side. Let's see. Yeah, I see him up on the panel side, so he is on. Can you bring him down?
Yeah, let me see if he's there.
Yeah,
he
I see him.
is there. Thank you, Susie. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So let's get Ralph up here. And there he is. So you got your laptop, your iPad going now. So let's unmute you. Ralph, thank you for joining Red America First Town Hall after hours, super late. We're joined here with Dr. Douglas Frank. He is with us live as well. So Ralph, tell us what's going on in Hawaii, what steps you took that was recommended earlier in the month that we discussed with you, and let's see what's going to go down next Wednesday. Thank you, Ralph, for coming on tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Basically, we're finally getting some recognition that our elections are fraud or flawed. The commission voted to have a permitted interaction group to investigate chain of custody complaints, and the permitted interaction group that was formed to investigate the island of Kauai came back with their report in the last meeting, and basically they said that all of the complaints are valid. There are no records or logs complying with HAR 3-17745-3B, which requires the clerk to keep a complete and current count of all marked sense ballots issued, spoiled, and received in their county. And the count based on scans of ballot envelopes in the statewide voter registration system is not reconciled with any manual count and is not verifiable. So they're saying that the computer results are not verifiable. And the last but not least is that the number of ballots increased on the county of Kauai by 661 and on the Big Island by over 19,000. And the other two counties, Maui and the city and county of Honolulu, have no records. So on the 27th, we are going to be discussing and acting on that. An interesting development that just happened, the commissioner who gave this report, the chair of the committee was this guy, name is Peter Young, and he's appointed by the Senate Majority Leader, the Senate President. He just resigned from the commission. He's only been on the commission for a few meetings, and he gave this report, and he has since resigned. So there's lots of speculation on why that is. So we're going to go in and we're going to basically have a 4-4 tie, if you will, and we're trying to get action on these items, and our elections are not verifiable, and the numbers that we do have are increasing. Basically, they're inserting ballots electronically, so we're trying to rectify that. And I think Dr. Frank, when I spoke to you a couple weeks ago, I sent a FOIA, which is the UIPA, in to get the voter history on who voted, and I sent it to both the county and the state. And the state said ask the county, and the county said ask the state. So both of them were denied. That's where we're at.
So they went like this, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have any candidates because candidates have constitutional right to challenge every elector in an election. Candidates can get access to the lists.
So I'm not there yet. I haven't asked any candidates to get that, but it's supposed to be public information.
I agree, but it's sort of like, you know, if I beat somebody up, you can't sue me. They have to sue me.
Right.
Right. Standing. A candidate has standing and has a lot more weight, and they have a right to see the list. And if they're not given a list, he can make all kinds of noise, and the judge will award it. Whereas you're just some local hack, and I mean nothing offense.
Well,
you're just an interested party. You're just an interested party, but you have no standing. That's the point I'm making.
I have not, so that could be something I can pursue. In the meantime, there's another permitted interaction. There's two other permitted interaction groups out there. And the group that I'm on, we are going to be presenting on the 27th. And we are doing a report on the entire state. So we will be presenting that report. So I've been working on that. And as far as the county of Kauai goes, I filed a lawsuit on the 25th of November, claiming there was an overage. And basically the Office of Elections put out the final report on November 13th. They didn't give me chain of custody documentation until the 21st of November. I added it up on November 22nd, which was a Friday. That gave me the weekend to file a case on that chain of custody documentation. It showed that they couldn't account for 4,000, roughly 20% of the ballots that they received or that they counted. So I turned in the case on the 25th. The Office of Elections certified the election the same day. Now, by law, they can't certify the election until after the time of that you can challenge. So they certified it the same day. And then the next timeline that we have is on December 2nd, the county clerk for the county of Kauai wrote certificates of elections for the council members. And that same day, they had an inauguration ceremony where they inaugurated the council, and then they conducted business. On December 4th, they replied to the Supreme Court, and they changed and altered and falsified their chain of custody documentation to the Supreme Court, and we can show that. So those are going to be more items that are going to be discussed. So they altered their chain of custody documentation. I think it was 9 days after the election was certified. And it was a month after the last chain of custody documentation was created. And then they altered it to the state Supreme Court. We can show on specific days that we have the mail receipts where they're putting entries for the amount of mail ballots that they've received on those days, and the mail entries don't jive. So we can show that they falsified over 1,200 ballot envelopes to the court. So again, that'll be discussed on next week's meeting also.
This meeting next week, I believe it's next Wednesday, right? Zoom link, I imagine.
Yes.
Do you get to use or call expert witnesses for this hearing? Over.
Anyone can testify. So they don't. I've tried calling expert witnesses, and they don't give them any more time. But you can get on and you can talk for 3 minutes. And then at the end, they'll let you speak again if you can't make your point in 3 minutes. So anyone who wants to get on and speak to this can do so. And I can share the link with you folks later. The agenda just came out today, and it's on the Hawaii Office of Elections website. And then you click About Us, Boards and Commissions, Elections Commission, and then that'll take you to the agenda for the meeting next week. So anyone can testify on that.
So Susan and Victoria both independently send me that Zoom link to my text. Dr. Frank, what can we do to strategize and get ready for his Wednesday hearing? It sounds like he's got a little bit of a gap here, but it sounds like he's got some information too. So,
well, it sounds like you actually have the envelopes.
We do not have them in our possession. They keep them for 22 months.
So how do you know they falsified them?
Say that again.
How you said that they falsified? I think you said 1,200 envelopes or something like that.
Okay, so the way I figured that is that we have their collections records and the dates that they show collecting envelopes. So there's several specific dates. On October 22nd, they had no entry for mail-in votes.
Wait a minute, just a minute. So you have everything you've done is just reconciliation. You've made all your conclusions because it doesn't reconcile. You have no hard evidence.
Well, we have the business reply mail receipts from the post office showing that they don't have the number of envelopes. The number of envelopes were not delivered that day that they claim to have gotten.
Okay, now we're getting, this is starting to sound like some hard evidence. Okay, so, but I think you're assuming the post office handled every ballot. Can people drop off a ballot in a Dropbox? Can people drop off a ballot in person?
So we have the in-person, the Dropbox collections data, and we have the post office data. So that's the only two ways. You can either go in person, you can vote by mail, or you can drop your ballot in a Dropbox.
And what you're saying, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what kind of evidence you have. And what you did is you added it all up, and they have counted more ballots than you've added up.
So they have records of the collections. I'm using their collections records. So they have a summary spreadsheet of the amount of ballots that they collected.
So what if somebody made a mistake on that?
So they've changed the sheets because they have made mistakes. And then
that's kind of where I'm going. So you'll sit there in court and you'll say, I did the accounting and they fraudulently inserted ballots because it doesn't total up properly. And then some meek little accountant, a meek little county official come and say, yeah, that was my mistake. I made a mistake on that form over there.
So during the court case,
I'm just saying, right, yeah. Go ahead.
No, so they changed the documentation, and
so now it does reconcile?
What's that?
So now it reconciles?
No, the numbers that they gave us, they were still off by 661. The original numbers, they were off by almost 4,000. The revised
And this
numbers
is Kauai we're
were
talking now, right?
just Kauai, and then we can go to the Big Island after this. But when they revised and falsified their information to the court on those specific entries, I asked them because they changed them. In one particular entry, they added 3004, and there's no signature, there's no date, no nothing on the entry. So I asked them where they got that from, and then I FOIA'd. I don't know if you can see this, but there's an entry right here that has no date, no time, and I asked them where they got that from. They didn't reply, and then I FOIA'd their business reply mail receipts, and they protested, and they said, you can't do that because that's all mail pieces delivered to their office. So of that number, we don't know how many mail-in ballots they have of that number. So what they just said makes their case worse. That's the most.
So this just sounds, I mean, if I were just coming at this from a 30,000 foot view, this just sounds like gross incompetence.
Well, they clearly falsified the records, and they don't have the mail receipts for that. I've been doing this for 3 years with the county.
Yeah.
I have the same documentation for 2022, and I have the documentation for 2020, and they could not account for 3,379 ballots in 2020. And I brought up the same thing. Their numbers jived in the 2022 primary, the 2022 general, and the 24 primary, where they had less ballots counted than envelopes received. Now, for the presidential race again, it spiked in 2020 and it spiked again in 2024, both presidential races. And I can show that history for the island of Kauai.
Have you FOIA'd their email communications yet?
I have.
Did they give them to you?
They haven't given me the communication between the islands. They've given me, I FOIA'd the communication between the Elections Commission chair.
That's great stuff. You should do that, definitely.
I've got every month except for December. In December's meeting, when I found out that this stuff wasn't jiving, the chair had put on the agenda item, on one of the agenda items, to rescind asking the counties for their chain of custody documentation. Now, on the meetings, the way they work with Robert's Rules of Order, the agenda item is the topic, and then commissioners make motions. The chair wanted a motion to rescind asking for chain of custody documentation. I made a motion to subpoena chain of custody documentation. The chair freaked out. They stopped the cameras, and they had 2 plainclothes law enforcement officers remove me from the building after I made that motion. So that's kind of the resistance that I'm hitting. So they removed me, and I've FOIA'd their December's correspondence, and they won't give that to me. On the other months, they're redacting conversations between the chair, the staff of the Office of Elections.
That's what I would have predicted.
Yeah. So they're redacting that, but we can see in other months I've been turning in complaints, and we also had a investigation into the signature verification and how that's done. I wrote a preliminary report, and they buried that. And I have the months where I see my communication to the secretary, and she's passing it on to the chair saying, this is Commissioner Cushnie's 3rd request. What do I do? They redact all the communication, and then it doesn't hit the agenda. So they're suppressing all of that information. the Attorney General's office is in on all of this.
So I always tell people, you know, it's right out of The Art of War. I carry this around with me, The Art of War. Sun Tzu. It's right out of The Art of War. You never let your enemy pick the battlefield. You choose the battlefield. Because when you're fighting in the enemy's battlefield, they can change. It's like playing a game of chess against somebody who keeps changing the rules. You'll never win against somebody. And when you're going to court, you're playing in their battlefield by their rules at their leisure. And when you start to win, they just change the rules. You're never going to win in their battlefield. Does that make sense what I just said?
Yeah, so where do you go? They control all the levers of power on.
You have to choose, you have to set up the battlefield. You have to prepare the arena. And if I'm going to, just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to grant you everything. I was being investigative there, right? I was trying to, you know, push back a little bit, find out what you really have. Let's say all the evidence you have is real. What's the remedy? Let's say you win in court. Judge says, you win, you're right on everything. What's the remedy? What do you get?
Well, what we'd like to do is get a full investigation, and to
Okay,
show
so
that, number one, you fire the chief elections officer and get somebody in new that will run a fair election. But the ultimate goal is to go back to hand count paper ballots in the precinct.
But how is your case going to cause that to happen?
That's a good question. Right now, we're just showing that their numbers don't reconcile.
Fair enough.
The collections, the number of ballots collected increases after collections.
So
And
what if the judge said, okay, you've proven that these people are incompetent. So what we're going to do is we're going to double their budget next year, buy new software, new machines, and hire a bunch of extra people so that we do this properly. Are you happy with that outcome?
No. No, we need to remove people.
So that's why I'm asking, what's the remedy? Now, for example, in Shasta County, Northern California, we did some of the same things you did, and we're on our fourth clerk now.
Oh my gosh.
Because we've been getting them fired one after another. But this time, guess who we have? Clint Curtis. And, you know, I had a lot to do with that. That was multiple trips there. It was a big victory. But there's still a lot. It's still an ongoing war. But we have hundreds of citizens engaged. And that's why we're winning. If it's just you every time, you won't have any influence with your county leaders. You're going to need to build a movement. And you notice the other day when President Trump talked about what he wants to do, he didn't say, I'm going to sign an executive order that requires the states to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He says, I'm going to start a movement.
To get people behind it.
That's what I've been saying for 4 years. Everywhere where we're succeeding, we're not succeeding because we have the evidence. We're not succeeding because we have proof or fraud. We're succeeding because we've awakened the community and they're engaged. That's when we win. So evidence alone, nothing. You've got to have the community. So, for example, when you're testifying next week, how many people are going to be there watching?
We've been getting about 100 on the Zoom calls. So one of the things they just did is, so when you share out this link, they just added a YouTube link ahead of the Zoom link. And that is to dilute it so the commissioners don't see everybody in the Zoom call. And we're questioning that. And we sent a letter.
This is not in person then?
It's a Zoom.
You don't get to meet with them in person?
The last meeting that I got to meet in person, they had the police remove me.
Oh my God.
That's what he was saying.
This is all virtual. So
that's just like neutering you before you even start. Because they can just ignore you.
Well, they repeatedly mute my microphone. So most people can't tell that I've been muted.
That's the entire event.
And like I said, you're fighting in their battlefield by their rules, and if they don't like them, they just change the rules. Exactly what I was just saying a minute ago.
However, Ralph, we can try to help get the message out by retransmitting the Zoom call on our platform. So Victoria and Susie and Magaso, those Hawaii people, help Valerie and I organize this, and we'll help retransmit this, Ralph, because 100 people is not enough to know what's going on. Because what Dr. Frank just said in Shasta County in California, there's a lot of patriots, right? And it helps influence these people that are giving you guys these challenges.
So there is a physical meeting that's taking place that you're zooming in on because you're not allowed. But are there other people there in person at the meeting?
No, there is no physical meeting. It's all the participants are on Zoom.
I think
That's a huge
they're
problem.
still playing the COVID game.
Yeah. So
Because
I mean,
we have hundreds of people that show up in person, and that is very powerful.
Yep.
100 people on Zoom is not the same as 100 people standing in the commissioner's chambers saying, we're not accepting this anymore. It's a very different thing. And what you're basically saying is that they know that, and so they've neutered you. They've locked you out.
Mitigated from the public to see that people are upset.
Yes.
They're
yeah,
mitigated.
so I just started doing a social media campaign just to bring awareness, and I just started a Instagram and a X account, and I'm just sharing out what's happening with the meetings and starting to give inside baseball. I also gave a speech a couple months ago, and that it got about 200,000 views. So people are interested in what's going on. The people in Hawaii know there's fraud, and so with what you're saying, I'm recognizing that and trying to get the word out. But this is not my forte. You know, this is not what I do. I've never done this stuff before. So
You're an analytical guy.
But yeah, well, I'm a contractor. I run heavy equipment and run crews, you know, so this is a totally different ball game.
We agree. It is a completely different ball game. I agree.
So anyway, I'm trying to get the word out to people that way, and it has been effective. With doing, when I started that, the next meeting they added this YouTube link to dilute the crowd, and anyone in that YouTube link can't testify. And they put it on there first, and I'm looking at the link right now. They sent out an email to the commissioners, which they've never done before, and said, here, putting this to the top of your email stack. And then they only give us the Zoom link, so we don't accidentally sign on to the YouTube link and figure out that we can't participate. So yeah, there's all kinds of little dirty shenanigans in keeping it on their playing field. That's
it's their chessboard, and that's the point. And I don't doubt that you've caught them at the minimum being incompetent and sloppy. At the minimum. At the maximum, they're cheating in their fraud and there's fraudulent ballots. At the minimum, you've at least proven they're incompetent and breaking the law. At the minimum.
Well, yeah, but there's my first meeting on the Elections Commission. They knew what I was bringing because I've already interacted with these guys. The first thing they did is I brought the evidence, and it's the same discussion. I brought evidence, which was emails from the county and the state saying they don't follow the law on this chain of custody. And all of this was laid out in the context of 2022 and 2020. And they told me I had to recuse myself. The defense attorney for the chief elections officer was also representing the commission. And he told me that I had to recuse myself because I had brought evidence in. That's the job of the commission. I went to defend myself and I said, no, you have the conflict. You are representing opposing sides. And then they went ahead and muted my microphone. The next meeting, he never reappeared and they never discussed it. But a clear conflict of interest. It's clear that it's not incompetence. They are trying to hide this stuff. And if you can go back through my meetings And you can look at the evidence. This was brought in January of 2024, and it laid out the exact same case and the exact same evidence. And they just said, we don't have to do it. There's no law requiring this. And I had brought the law, the administrative rule that mandates that they do this to that. And again, they muted my microphone. We took a vote to investigate this, and they told me that I was recused. And I'm like, I didn't recuse myself. You can't recuse me. And they just didn't count my vote, and they moved on. So this is not incompetence. And the Attorney General's office is in on it.
I'm accepting your argument. I'm accepting your point. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that if you go to court, at the minimum, it's gross incompetence. You've proven that, but it's much more. I'm not arguing against that. I just know the way these things go. And in court, you have to have, to get them to the point where you've caught them, who's the person who actually cheated, and it wasn't just a mistake and intent. I mean, it's hard to prove things. And so it ends up getting, the charges essentially end up getting dumbed down, reduced. I'm not disagreeing with you in any means. I'm just.
Well, the Supreme Court dismissed my case. I filed a petition for declaratory judgment.
And they dismissed it. Let me guess, on standing, right?
The Supreme Court, they said that the county's evidence collections was not prima facie evidence. And the law says that any records collected during the election is prima facie evidence, and that's never been addressed. So I've done this a couple times in the Supreme Court, and it gets more and more egregious the way they dismiss this stuff. And I would submit to you that the court's in on it also with the rulings they made. They said it's not prima facie evidence, and that you can't assume that there will be a ballot in the envelope. Now, we only had 6 envelopes that were rejected for having no ballot or the wrong ballot or more than one ballot in it. So for them to say that you can't assume or presume that there's a ballot in the envelope just goes against all reasoning. But that's what they had to do to dismiss the case. And then they would not, the way the elections challenge goes, the rules of the court, once you turn in your case and they reply to it, you can't amend your filings. Well, they changed all of their chain of custody documentation, and we asked, where did that come from? Because I used their information the first time to submit, and then they changed it outright. Then the court said I couldn't amend my filing, even though they had changed all the evidence.
Right.
And then and I can show that they falsified it through the business reply mail receipts.
Wow. It sounds like we have an uphill battle with this situation.
So the Big Island's a better one. So the Big Island, in January, we finally got their records and logs, and they can account for where 19,000 ballots, 25% of their election mail-in ballots came from. A candidate wrote to the clerk, and when we found this out, it was already past the time to challenge the election. So anyway, a candidate wrote to the clerk of the Big Island, Hawaii County, and asked about the discrepancy. And the clerk said that the reason for that was that there was no business. The post office didn't give them receipts for the 19,000, but they had given them receipts for 29,000. So there's a violation there. They have $13,000 of unpaid postage if they really did get it from the post office. I FOIA'd in June the records from the County of Hawaii asking the post office for clarification or to get the receipts. They have never reached out to the post office to get the receipts. 2 weeks ago, I was on the Big Island and I turned in a letter to them from our permitted interaction group asking about the receipts, and they wouldn't even give me the last name of the postmaster on the Big Island. Somebody called me from Oahu from the post office. I did not answer the first call, and it took me over a week to calling them multiple times a day for them to answer the phone. When they finally got an answer, they said somebody would be contacting me to tell me how to FOIA the information from the post office. And I said, can you give me their name and number and I'll call them? And they said, nope, they'll contact you. And I have yet to this day gotten contacted by the post office to get that resolved. So we've reached out there. The post office is not cooperating. So that would be a great little federal thing to happen, is if the feds could look into the post office and see if they really did deliver that many mail ballots.
Do you have any connections to Tulsi? She's from your part of the world.
We're trying to get her attention. She seems to be pretty busy, though.
Well, yeah, I know that, but I know what she's supposed to be doing. And
Yeah. So again, any
but do you
way
have
we can-
connections to her? Is my point. Is there somebody there who's friends with her or her family?
I'm sure there are, and we've
That's worth
contacted.
investigating.
Yes, that's worth pursuing because that's a push button.
I agree. So I've been trying with the contacts that I have. I've been told that she's been notified, but I have not received anything back or confirmation.
I'm not at liberty to discuss much, about that. But I can say that she's been given directives by the president, and if she was giving ammunition from her own backyard, that could be powerful. But yeah, I come back to my other question. If I grant, you've done a thorough job. If I grant everything you say is correct, what's the remedy? And if the remedy is you're going to get a new clerk, I've seen that all over the country. We got rid of 2/3 of the clerks in Pennsylvania. That didn't fix nothing. So if the remedy is they're going to spend more money and get new systems because the old ones are incompetent, that's not a solution. The remedy is what? I don't want to play. I'm not playing the game. I'm going to tell you the truth. The remedy is you have to have local control.
Yeah,
Where-
where count paper ballots in the precincts.
I don't care how you count them as long as it's local.
Yes.
Now, because for example, I always show people my little demonstration, and I always say it doesn't matter how many times you count the cash in the register. No, I was looking for my little. It doesn't matter how many. Here it is. I always tell people it doesn't matter how many times you count the cash in the register. What matters is how many of the bills are counterfeit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In other words, your hugest problem is that you're mailing most of your ballots in Hawaii. And so how do you know if someone's losing an election, they want to make it go their way, all they have to do is stuff a whole bunch of ballots. But if you think about it, every ballot that is being counted has to be assigned to a name. That is your power. That's why the most important thing you can have in your hand is the list of everybody who voted. Because then you can go down the list and say, who's that? Who's that? Now, we've caught people multiple times cheating in just exactly the ways you're describing. I mean, think about election night in 2020. You remember the Michigan graph, that went, up and then jumped and continued. Remember that graph? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's 156,000 new voters that were added to the voter rolls. And we had the list of the voter IDs, but the Secretary of State was holding back the names and addresses for them. So the judge ordered her to give them to us. And then she said she would provide the list, but it would take her 2 years. And then the case was dismissed before that happened. Or In your case, you did a mail reconciliation. We testified December 9th, 2021 in front of the legislature of Wisconsin with exactly the same kind of evidence. And in that case, we had the emails of the Milwaukee clerk admitting to her colleagues that they had received 120,000 more ballots than they mailed. And we had the mail records, just like you did, showing. Okay, we also had the software written by CTCL, the Center for Tech and Civic Life. We turned it in as evidence. We had the source code for the software that they were using to do all this. We had the letters between CTCL and the county clerk proving that they were colluding to make this happen. So the reason I'm saying all this is because I've been down this road. And you're finding the same thing we've been finding everywhere else. You're not wrong. The question is, what's your remedy and what's going to happen? And you need a strategy that has a remedy that you want, or why are you doing it? Yeah, Hitler's a bad guy. Everybody agrees, but you got to win the war. So how are you going to win the war? And that is not about evidence. That's about a movement. So we got to focus. For example, the meeting next week, can we have 100 people standing outside their offices in person? You know, are they in chambers when they have the Zoom meeting? Are they in person together, or are they all online together?
They're all online. And so the Office of Elections will bury all of that stuff. We need, I totally agree, we need to have the commissioners in person so the commissioners can see the crowd. And December's crowd, we had the room packed.
How about 100 people picketing them at their house?
Yeah, different island from where I'm at, but if somebody wants to arrange that, I gotta watch.
That's where I'm going.
That's exactly it. We got many Hawaii people on the call right now. Kelly, Megeso, Victoria, Susie. We can start getting an army right now, planning today, tomorrow, right? We got time because it's next Wednesday. And Dr. Frank's right. Let's have some people at their house. Let's have some people at their office. They work allegedly, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday. Go show up. But on that Wednesday, let all hell break loose.
What's Hawaii like in terms of guns? Are people allowed to carry there?
It's pretty tough to get a concealed carry, but you can get it.
If you had 10 guys dressed in camo, all rednecked out, you know, with MAGA hats and looking like they were carrying, even if they weren't, and 10 ladies carrying signs, you know, mail fraud, election fraud. And so 20 people walking around the county building, and you made sure the media knew, would it make the newspaper?
I'm sure it would.
See where I'm going? You may have all the perfect evidence, but nobody knows. So we need to do a public stunt. Needs to become public. Public needs to know. There's a book. It's called Beautiful Trouble. It's one of my favorites. It's 100 ideas that the left has been using against us for decades. 100 examples of ideas where they did public stunts to create the awareness that you need to have. Because you're not going to win with the evidence. You're going to win when enough people are pissed off and they know it.
That's right.
That's when you're going to win. Because you're not going to win in court. You've already learned that.
Okay, so you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Okay, you're correct. This is about a movement. But one thing about the islands that most people don't understand is each island is run by a mafia. We have the most human trafficking, drug trafficking, election integrity problems. This is total corruption. Our islands are predominantly run by the United Nations. We have a lot of NGOs. We have at least 12 to 15 NGOs just on the island of Kauai. So this is corruption beyond election. We know our elections are stolen, like you said, and it does require a movement of everybody on each island moving forward. That is the biggest challenge right there. Ralph himself has done a tremendous job in what he's doing. And he is no man is an island. We know that.
Ah,
And he's been funding this out of his own pocket. The cases, he's never asked for a donation. He's never asked for anything. But what he really needs to do is ask, and all of us need to get involved and create the movement that is needed, not only in the elections integrity issue, but in all issues that are paralyzing our island and stealing the life from the people that live here.
Hey, Miguel, so I want to react to you. So I've been doing this 4.5 years, almost every day of my life. And at the beginning, I was trying to build big movements. And I learned that's a mistake. What you're trying to do is build a small movement somewhere. And then once you've got that small, and so like, is there a city where you have, you know, more conservative people? Like, right, for example, right now I go around the country prospecting for small cities, small counties, where I've got county leaders and county sheriffs that are conservative and don't like the mafia. You know, you mentioned the mafia. Are you kidding? Mitch McConnell mafia. They call it the McConnell mafia in Kentucky. I mean, it is Mitch McConnell land. So you're not alone. It may be worse there, and I appreciate your comments. But the reason I say it though is because it's going to be hard to take on the big island. But is there a small island?
Yes, it's the island of Kauai, the island that I'm on, and we have a lot of conservative people here. And I'll be running again for mayor this time around, and we're going to create a movement.
That's what
call them out by names.
That to me, you're going to build a beachhead. That's the way. And we have to make lots of island puns, which is why I said that. By the way, my cousin was a minister for about a decade on Kauai. He was a Southern Baptist preacher. I don't know if you ever knew Don Frank, but he was there with his. If you guys have a church over there, but that was a lot of years ago, maybe 25 or 30 years ago. But he was a minister there on Kauai, so I know about Kauai a little bit. But I love the idea. I'm not saying the big island doesn't matter, but it's sort of like saying, yeah, we already know that there's tons of fraud in Milwaukee, so we're not going to attack there. Where do I spend all my time in Wisconsin? Those small red counties up in the north, because those are like beachheads, and then we get them organized and they act together. So if we could focus on Kauai and get Kauai organized, then that'll leak into the big island. I'm just thinking out loud here.
What do you know about Kauai and Hawaiian history? It
used to be a leper colony.
No, that's Molokai.
Oh,
that's Molokai. Kauai
maybe that's where my cousin was.
Kauai has never been conquered.
Kauai has never been
conquered in the Hawaiian history.
Oh,
And
so you have there's a strong spine there.
Strong spine, and it's
let's use that.
And we're going to use it because it's time. We've had enough, and we respect Ralph for everything he's done.
He's doing great work.
Yeah, he's been a real warrior, and we respect him.
He sounds a lot like me 4 years ago, right? And Mr. Lindell made movies about what I was doing. I had all the evidence. I was testifying before the legislatures. We had him dead to rights. I mean, exactly what he's talking about. We were presenting. I even talked about the reconciliation issue with the USPS in Wisconsin. We had a lot of the same kind of evidence. And what was shocking to me is when I guess I'm too, naive politically. I thought you bring the evidence to the legislature, they're going to act. But no, there isn't a good legislature in the country. And especially if they're corrupt, like you say, if it's a mafia, then it doesn't matter what we do. The judges are bought, the legislators are bought.
Everybody's bought.
And so it's going to boil down to the people. And are the people going to fight for their island or not?
Yes.
If they are, that's the way to fight. That's what we got to do. I'm not disagreeing with the evidence, and keep fighting with the evidence. I'm not telling Ralph to stop. But we can't expect it to deliver what the remedy we're after is all I'm going.
Randy, you had something you wanted to chime in on. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was more of kind of a question addressed to either Dr. Frank or to the guest who's been doing all this work in Hawaii, trying to prove and trying to get justice, you know, for the voters and for the system as it should be. There is a guy named Russell J. Gould who kind of went through the court systems and found out how fraudulent they really are. And he found out how the postal service is basically kind of tied to all this, kind of externally. It's like an external control mechanism. So I find it interesting that you talk about that and bring up the postal service. Have either of you heard of Russell J. Gould's work?
I've heard of it, but I haven't met with him in person.
I can actually tell you that I know the syntax language that David Windmiller created just on the topic you're talking about.
Yes, but I mean, this all kind of goes, it kind of points to that as like kind of a next step, really, if you've studied any of that and kind of see what he was able to uncover in his journey, and basically kind of finding the secrets of how things are really structured on a maritime level, because everything has been hijacked by that essentially. So, I mean, that's almost like important, I think, for everyone to sort of learn that and kind of study that, because I think that is a next step if you really want to go up against this. Because I mean, yes, we do need to get everybody's attention on this, and you have to create the movement. But then once you've created the movement and you've got the awareness, where do you go from there? You know what I mean?
Right. You're basically taking the power back. And then once you have the power, then you can make moves. Stalin said, it is enough that the people have an election. It doesn't matter who casts the votes. What matters is who's counting the votes. And so the problem, as long as you're letting somebody else count the votes, I don't care how the system is. And if you're counting the votes, I don't care if you use a machine or whatever you want to do. You can hand count them. You can use jelly beans. As long as you're doing it, your hands, your eyes, everything's transparent, everything's auditable. You know, I prefer hand counting too, obviously. And I prefer everything under local control, you know, everything documented, everything chain of custody. But I don't really care as long as it's local. The local people have full access. They can do whatever they like.
No more cardboard boxes covering the windows, right?
Well, let's not forget the Bar Association was created in 1873 when the United States broke the contract with the Republic and became a corporation.
Well said. Sound like a JBSer, Jumper Society guy.
No.
They spend a lot of time on that topic. Ralph, have you've written this stuff up, right? Is there some kind of report somewhere?
Yeah, they have court cases and all of that. Yes.
So people come to me all the time from around the country because, you know, I have people know who I am. And they send stuff to me all the time. Dr. Frank, check this out. I'm a smart guy and I'm technical and I can spend time reading it and studying it and I'm interested in it, so I do. But I know that if I put that document on the internet, nobody's going to look at it except people like you and me. So there's a marketing aspect to this. It's like you have to distill it down to something simple that people can understand. And so we need to find somebody who can take what you've done and make, you know, election fraud for dummies. And it's kind of like in Georgia last year, they had a big election to get back to having paper ballots. Can you imagine voting on a machine, just touching buttons and walking away? And so they had the paper please movement, and that's cute. It's good marketing. And they were able to go back to a paper ballot. Now, that doesn't fix all their problems, of course, because it's still on a machine and they're still not counting them. And but at least it's one of the 12 tumors that they have to fix. So anyway, all I'm saying is I just brought it up as an example. We need to have messaging, and then you need to create a stunt around it so that the media picks it up and then everybody knows. You need to bring it into the public consciousness. How do we do that? That's almost more important than the evidence. The evidence is important. You need to distill a message and bring that into the public consciousness. That's what you got to do. That's what we got. And if that's not your forte, let's figure out who it is, whose forte it is.
And let's push them and let's get that going.
I would say in my 7 steps, the first thing you do in my 7 steps is you get connected, and that's what we're doing now. And then sorry, it's the way this thing works. Yeah. The first thing is, here we go. hold it steady. The first is to get connected. The second one is you form a team, and there's 7 people on that team, and one of the person is a promoter. And you know, God gives us each gifts. Some people are analytical. Sounds like you and me, Ralph. I spent half my day in writing software and analyzing voter data. So we're analytical guys. We're not good at that other side. So let's form a team. Let's find somebody who's good at this. Now the guy from Kauai, it sounds like maybe a leader of a team over there. He had an interesting name. Megeso, yeah, Megeso. Sounds like maybe he might be willing to lead a team. So now you have a team. And then once you have a team, you're going to need to have a promoter and a data person. Sounds like we've already got a good data person, Ralph. Let's put together a team, and let's, you know, when you're fighting a war, you don't just pick up your guns and run at the enemy. You're fighting a war, you make a team, a war council, and you come up with a strategy, and then you begin to implement it. And so that's kind of what I'm advising. I mean, I love your evidence. I'm interested in it. I'd love to scour through it a little bit, maybe, and maybe bolster it a little or give you some more ideas. But it's impotent without the public knowledge.
And we need to get the public aware so the media will grab it and then transmit it, and then the whole nation should know what's going on in Hawaii. And I think with Victoria and Susie and Megeso and Gary Cordry and Calais and there's plenty of people that will help transmit this out, and we need it to transmit out. I will work with Valerie, and we will get a retransmit for Wednesday. But physical bodies is the key, right? You guys need to go to their houses. You need to go to the office. You need to just in a peaceful way, right? We don't want to
First Amendment war, not a Second Amendment war yet.
Right. we don't want to raise havoc and create issues, but we do want this to be important, and we want the public to be aware. And the only way to do that is kind of like Dr. Frank's saying, get organized. Let's get some people promoting it. I just listed about 5 people I know that have a lot of people behind them. We could get this multiplied.
Let me play a game. So, Ralph, you get 1 sentence to say to the public. What would it be?
Show up to our meetings.
Invite people to your meetings?
Yeah.
Let me rephrase my question. If you could give 1 piece of evidence to the public that would motivate them, what would that be? Why should they come to your meetings? Everybody's asking them to come to their meetings. Why should they come to yours? What's the one thing? They're brownies. I don't know.
They're inserting ballots electronically.
Okay, they're inserting ballots electronically in our elections. Boom. Okay, I think most people can understand that. They're adding ballot. That's a pretty simple phrase. So, you guys can change it, but let's pretend that that's the one that we came up with. That's the message that has to make it all over the place. And how do we make that happen? And then, they're inserting ballots electronically in our elections. Tune in next Wednesday to hear all about it.
There you go.
Because people understand that. As soon as you say chain of custody, people go, huh?
Right. Keep it simple. Yeah. Keep the message simple. Retrans. Victoria, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
I did actually have that message, or I've resonated that message. The budget for Hawaii State 2025 is $19.14 billion. We have almost 5 million people in the state of Hawaii. If you break that down to what one vote is, the average household is 2.95 persons per household. One vote equals one household, yes? So if they inserted 19,000 ballots into our election, they stole $741 million. One household vote, one person voting is $39,000. So did you vote?
Wow.
That
Thank you.
has resonated with everybody I've come in contact with. Business owners. That's a lot of money.
Tamara, turn your TV off for a minute. Tamara had a
Oh,
good
sorry about that.
Tamara had a good idea. She said that they're cheating. What was your comment in the notes, Tamara? Go ahead.
Basically, I think it needs to be more, needs to have more shock value, especially here in Hawaii.
Proof of ballot cheating. Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, because everybody is pretty complacent.
We have the evidence that they're stuffing ballots. That's got a little more edge.
Right.
Yep.
It has to have shock value because a lot of people here are complacent here. We're very much a blue state. And, Ralph is very right. There's a lot of corruption, even within the party. So we need to start creating more coalitions because it's going to be like Steve Stern is doing a really good job of getting people across the nation in various little groups and coalitions. And we all agree that it's the parties that aren't going to really help make a difference. It's going to be the grassroots efforts and like-minded coalitions to get together and appoint different efforts across the states in delegation of unique efforts to make sure that the word is getting out there. We do have the challenge of being islands, but so what we need to do is really boots on the ground door, not get flyers out, just like what you're saying, but we do need that shock value message to shake the wake in people and basically we have the proof. There is extreme cheating and corruption here in Hawaii, and then that will force them to read it. Because it, just like you said, oh, come to the meeting. Everybody wants everybody to come to a meeting, but we have to give them something. It's like, why is there a sale at the grocery store? What's going to get us to go to Costco or Safeway or whatever? We have to offer the product in order for them to open the package.
So I just came from Alabama, and the shock value is that I showed them their voter rolls. They call it the Wiregrass. It's southern Alabama. Bunch of these small counties, 10, 20,000 people in them. And I showed them their own voter rolls, and they were like, wait a minute. We like our clerk. We trust our clerk. We thought that we had good elections here. So I just showed them their own voter rolls. And then I gave them their voter rolls organized in such a way that they can find actual fraud in it. So when they then show actual fraud is happening in their small community, they're like, wait a minute, how is this happening to us? That is the shock value that will motivate people. So Ralph is not wrong, but he's sort of done the statistics that show that it has happened. But can you produce the actual voters that are fraudulent voters? That's important. Like, for example, let's say a ballot was stuffed for a dead person. We find those all over the place. That's very powerful. When you, especially by mail-in ballots, it's easy to stuff ballots for dead people. So that's the shock that we can give. So in other words, I'm trying to be a friend to Ralph here. So don't take this wrong, Ralph. Come listen to me next week. I've got all the accounting that proves that they're stealing our election. That's not as powerful as saying, come next week. We're going to list 15 people who were dead who voted.
Yeah.
See the difference? That there's a one is it's sort of like I always tell people, somebody gets up and gives a testimony at the county supervisor meeting and says, oh, our death rate, our murder rate went up 1% last year. And everybody says, oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. We should do a study, maybe hire more police. But you start piling up bodies in the middle of the supervisor room, then things start to happen. So you need the hard evidence. People are not, motivated by numbers. Believe me, I'm a numbers guy. I'm tried motivating the whole country for a year with numbers. Doesn't work. You got to have dead bodies. I don't know. I'm just trying to give you good feedback. I'm trying to maximize Ralph's effect next Wednesday.
Yeah.
We need to maximize his impact so that as many people hear about it. Can we write letters to the editor? Can we get on radio? Oh, are you going to be interviewed on radio, Ralph? Do you guys have Christian radio there? You should see my schedule for next week. I have about 7, 8 radio interviews next week because I'm going back to Oregon, and they've had me on like the local radio program for each of the counties I'm about to be in. So it's like during the morning commute, everybody's hearing. It's not about what I say. It's the fact that, wait a minute, there's election problems here. Who's this guy talking? Who's coming to town? And you're creating the public awareness something's going on. So do you have a Christian radio station you could get on? Hey, this guy's going to testify on Wednesday. What's he going to say? It gives you practice too.
Yes. Susie, last member comment before we close tonight. Go ahead, Susie.
Well, I just wanted to first real quick thank everybody for jumping on at this late date to throw in their support for this, because the elections shambles here in Hawaii is just it's just horrendous. And Ralph has worked harder than I've ever seen anyone work to try to raise awareness and get this out. And I love your points about bulleting it. Yeah, getting it more sensationalized. I think that's so critical, other than long-winded narratives, to get something that's really sensational.
Better to have a few bullets than a 12-page report.
Yeah.
For the public consumption.
Absolutely. Because we're on a very short window of time here to get, we want to get the chair commission chair off, and we want to get the elected commissioner off. That's the first step towards remedying, is get them out as quickly as possible. We're hoping to be able to accomplish that this next week, if possible.
I wish I'd been out there with you guys. I was invited there in June of 2022 to be with you guys, but it was the week of my son's wedding, so I couldn't come out there that time. Seth
You're
Kessel was
invited.
there.
Come.
I mean, I'm free. I don't charge anything for my work. I'm not charging anything to be here.
Bless you.
I don't charge anything. So you just have to, I ask people to pass a hat to help me cover my expenses. That's what I do. So I'm not, if you want me out there, we just got to get it scheduled in. And there's a principle there. What's that?
Let's do a strategy meeting. Come on out.
That's exactly right. And there's another thing. Ralph, much as I love him already, he's the local schmuck. And what do I mean by that? Jesus Christ went home to Nazareth. How did that work out? Okay. If Jesus Christ can't pull it off on his own in his own hometown, maybe you shouldn't think you could either. So when you bring in the outside blood, it's like catalyzes, when you brought Seth Kessel out there, right? It creates public awareness. People come, people pay attention. So you need the outside stimulation. So that's what I've learned anyway. So I'm happy to come help. But I was just trying to maximize, because we're on short time schedule for next Wednesday. So I'm just trying to think of lots of ideas. Man, I wish I had a copy of your voter rolls. To me, that would be the number one focus for me, would be to find that list of who voted, because that's the way you can prove. That's where you can find the dead bodies. That's where you can say, hey, they counted ballots from John Doe, and John Doe's been dead for 5 years. Or, because if you're right and they've stuffed 19,000 ballots, that's going to be easy to find those in the rolls, in the list of the voter list. And we ought to find a bunch of them and get a bunch and prove it all. And then you've got the hard evidence. I'm not saying what the evidence Ralph has isn't hard. It's good. But it's sort of like the statistical end of it. Let's find the human being part of it. You can say, well, John Smith is dead and voted, but go knock on door and talk to his widow, and get an affidavit from her and the copy of the death certificate. That's like the real world side of the numbers side. You got the statistics and the numbers. Let's add the real world, because people are dumb.
and people are cheating, and this is a way to prove that that's happening.
Right.
To get your facts and your evidence, and then you got your people, knocking on doors and getting the awareness up. So I think that's the short-term goal here.
If I could just add a footnote real quick. We've tried very hard as a team with Ralph across the archipelago to raise an outcry over this. And there has been some good momentum. There has been some good membership on these commission meetings. But like Mageso said, not to discount Hawaii, we were the genesis of the GMO movement that went worldwide right here. This was where it all began.
I remember that. I've seen documentaries on that.
Yes. And
but you had hard evidence. You didn't just have statistics, because you got it right there in your hand. That's in other words, the public is not motivated by numbers. They're motivated by stuff in your hands. So that's kind of what I was looking for.
Well, we started early without data, but it came as we went. But yes.
Do you have any relationship with your party at all?
We do a RAF. We have a connection with Nolan.
Because the party has the voter rolls, and the party has the list of who voted. They have what's called the voter history.
The GOP is compromised here right now.
Welcome to our world. But all you need is somebody in the GOP who will give it to you. On Kauai, are they primarily ES&S, Dominion? Which brand are they primarily?
It's Hart.
Hart Intercivic.
It's controlled by the state. The counties don't control that voting machine.
And it's Hart Intercivic for all the islands?
Correct.
Yeah, the reason I said is because that's hard evidence. I've got somebody who's an expert hacker in Dominion. I've got somebody who's an expert hacker in ES&S. And that's also very compelling shock value evidence when you can hack into their elections right in front of them. That's, I'm looking for those. I'm just trying to create some shock value for you. But I don't have a Hart guy, at least on short notice.
Well, listen, team, I'm going to ping Tamara. Tamara, just heads up, emails coming to get the voter rolls. I'll get this to Dr. Frank. I'm gonna help get this going, and I'll make some phone calls tomorrow with some patriots in Hawaii to start, planning and getting more patriots aligned for Wednesday, because getting organized is important, and we need to do that tomorrow, not Sunday or Monday. It's too late. We need to start working on this tomorrow. I have nothing further, guys. Let's just get to work and let's see what happens Wednesday.
Thank you for your time. Thanks.
I'm interested in your stuff. Is there a way I can see it?
Yeah, I'm getting it for you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect. Because I might be able to give you bolster it or be a peer reviewer for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm been doing this every day, so I might have something helpful.
A little experience over here, so
just a little bit.
Well, thank you guys, and those that are watching, please tune in. RedAmericaFirst.com. We are going to be the solution. We're going to watch the government organizations. We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to build a resiliency pillar where patriots all over the country are going to be able to say, hey, I got a tractor. Hey, I got a backhoe. Hey, I got a chainsaw. And then when something happens with emergency disaster or something like this, we're going to be able to call on those patriots and say, hey, let's start putting some actions to these solutions. And then in parallel to that, we're going to have a bug tracking system. Software guy knows what that is. So you write an issue that's going on at your local level, it gets to the Red America First state leader. The state leader communicates with Migueso, the cool guy you like. He's our corruption pillar leader. So we're going to validate the issue. We're going to put a Red America First patriot to work on a solution to that problem. And lastly, we are going to have an election integrity pillar. And I'm really working hard on getting somebody to help with that election pillar, because if we had a nationwide team that is doing these little details that Dr. Frank is suggesting that we do, our elections will be more in our control. And that is the goal, is the more that we can control it and make sure it's transparent and ethical and all these things, we will never have illegal elections again. I yield. Thank you, guys. RedAmericaFirst.com.
Thanks.
Guys, have a great night. It's time to go to bed. Any last minutes?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you,
Good to
guys.
be with you guys. Sorry I was late. Can't help it. I got as good as soon as I could.